culture. Be stylish. Be seductive. Be cynical.
What's up, everyone? This is Danny Stygion, and I'm the publisher of Sinical Magazine. This is episode number 10 of the Sinical Magazine podcast. This episode, we go back into our archives again. This interview was for Sinical Magazine number 4. I had contacted Henry Rollins' publicist about being in the magazine, and she mentioned that he had a photography book coming out called Occupants. He sent me a copy of the book. I checked it out, and it was great. There's only one catch. The interview would have to be conducted over the phone. I'd done a bunch of interviews for Sinical, but they're all done via email. This would be my first interview with anyone over the phone, so I was a bit nervous. Henry Rollins turned out to be a great talker, and he had a lot of interesting things to say, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And I've done a lot of interviews over the phone and Skype since then. I want to apologize for the audio quality of this podcast. This phone conversation was recorded with a tape recorder. Anyway, let's get to the interview.
Hello, Henry. Yeah. This is Danny Stygion with Sinical Magazine.
Hey, how are you?
I appreciate you taking the time to do this interview.
Not a problem.
I'm a big fan. If you're ready, we'll jump right into it.
I am ready.
Can you talk about the title of your book and where the idea came from?
Well, I think that's what we humans are occupants in that no one has any real lasting purchase on life or on the planet. You know, you can be a billionaire, like, Mark Zuckerberg rich, but you're going to die, and you're here for a while. And ultimately, all of your stuff is kind of like a rental, in that, you burn it to the ground or you hand it off, but you're not leaving with it, but you sure enough are going to leave. And we humans kind of occupy space in our environments, where animals, they certainly occupy, but they adapt to their surroundings, and only when making a nest or a dam do they try and change their environment. Where humans will take a rainforest and lose it and cover it with concrete. They'll take the woods and they'll turn it into a parking garage. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that's what we do. And so we occupy the planet with almost like a vengeance.
Right.
We seek to dominate it, where animals not so much. People kind of like that is what we do. And that's why I called the book that.
All right. How long did it take you to compile all the photographs and make the book?
The photographs go from 2003 to 2010, so it's like 7 or 8 years of information gathered.
Right. Did you learn photography and the film processing on your own?
No. I took photography like in school as a very young person, and I'm 50, so it was a long time ago.
Right.
And so I learned the basic ideas of shutter speed, light, f-stop, etc. And I had a camera in high school and took quite a lot of photos, actually. And then years later, after that camera broke or was somehow disappeared into the sands of time, I was very broke, really broke, for a long time, and could not afford a meal, much more a camera. So I went cameraless for many years. And then years later was able to afford to buy a camera, so I resumed. And so I had to kind of relearn things in a digital sense when I started doing digital photography, which was not that much of a leap because it's kind of the same thing. I had to teach myself Photoshop and all of that to be able to get the photos, from a raw file to what you see in the book.
Right.
And that was a bit of a learning curve, but it's kind of, all that software isn't all that hard to deal with, in that it is what it is, and with a bit of computer savvy and some common sense, you can kind of stumble through it. And also trial and error. You can just screw up a photo 80 times and just don't hit save and you're good to go.
All right. How did all your years of traveling change your worldview and the view of yourself in it?
Traveling as extensively as I do, the takeaway for me, it has made me very humble, very sympathetic to other people's plights in the world, and very desirous of being proactive in being a part of a solution somehow, and not part of a problem. It's made me very patient and very grateful as to where I live. Where, you and I, we do have some things in common in that today's meals that we're going to eat, it's not really, the only part of it we really think about is what's it going to be and when can I have it, not will I be able to find food.
Right.
The fact that there's too much food, that we have to watch that we don't eat too much, that's kind of our problem. In other parts of the world, that problem would be hard to explain to some people. A hot tub. Why do you have all that water? You're not going to drink it? No, we're just going to soak in it. Really? You're not going to do the wash in that water? No. You're not going to clean yourself in that water? No, we're just going to soak in it. People look at other things, they imagine going to a village in southern Sudan and trying to explain to someone there the concept of life insurance or retirement. Go to Vietnam and say retirement. And retirement in another country is your body is too racked with pain and your hands are too arthritic from the life of the rice paddies for you to work anymore. So you move in with your son and his new wife takes care of you because that's how family works there. I raised you up and later on you're going to help me in my old age. There's no retirement. There's just a few years of non-work by the fire with someone bringing you some tea and, relative peace and playing with the children, the grandchildren. But there's no going to Disney World and getting in the RV. And so those are Western realities. Not only just American, but that's for a British person or an Australian person. There's vast swatches of the world where it's just not, they might not even have words in their language to describe those things. So, going through those environments as many times as I have, it makes me think differently about everything from water to food to life and death to the meaning of money, employment, labor, etc. It changes my view on everything. It definitely makes me see America differently and the West.
Yeah, we definitely take things for granted.
Well, yes and no. In that if you're given no other perspective, what other conclusions are you supposed to come to? And that's why I can't, bust on Americans. You take it for granted. Like, it's all I know. Shut up. In that, if you're a kid in Beverly Hills, I'm not putting down people who live in Beverly Hills. If the kid knows private school and a credit card, you can't say you take life for granted. He's like, I'm taking the life that's been given me. What he does as an adult will, be more, maybe under scrutiny, but to a certain degree, you got what you got, you know what you know. I'm a white guy in America with an education, albeit high school, but a pretty good one. I probably, another guy from a different demographic or a different ethnicity in America could look at me and say, you take a lot for granted. Oh, okay. I live in a white male American reality where I hear you, but I don't know if I can necessarily read you. And so I do think that Americans are poorly served by their media, at times extremely poorly served by their elected officials, who are non-responsive to majority feelings, and cut off to a certain degree from the affairs of the world. We are isolated and therefore kind of like veal in that, we're kind of on our way to the slaughter with blinders on sometimes, as probably well over half of Americans do not have a passport. Where if young people could spend 2 weeks of their life in India or pick an African country to go to for, 2 or 3 weeks and really see how it can be, life, that might be a good thing. That might be a real good thing. Because I think they would probably see things, even if the trip was a nightmare, I think they might understand more of the mechanics of the world.
Right. You mentioned a lot of the endurance of the human spirit, people's nature to survive. Did you gain any hope for humanity in all of this?
Well, it made me see what an adaptive species Homo sapiens is. I mean, humans are pretty amazing at living pretty much anywhere. And so that, it makes me optimistic that perhaps humanity will be able to survive itself. Because the reality is that we are going to have problems with water in this century. And the fact that we're going to have problems with fossil fuels, given some people don't want to admit it, but they're just defending their corporate interests. The truth is, which they know full well, that we're going to have problems with petroleum products. So the reality is, in this century, Homo sapiens, the species, either figures it out or loses the plot. It's not next century, it's this century.
Right.
And we got 90 more years to go, by and large, to figure this out. And that's not a lot of time in the big scheme of things, but it's more time than you're going to be around. And so it's more than a lifetime for you and me. So it's a whole lot of time. And so I remain hopeful that science, innovation, and kindness will come to the fore as things become more and more tense in parts of the world. And I think what you're seeing in the world right now is kind of a leveling, an attempt to level the playing field. And, Yemen, Tunisia, Egypt, Israel, this Occupy Wall Street thing happening in America, which is compared to what happened in Cairo, quite anemic. But we'll see what happens. The people in Cairo were basically willing to come home with a bullet in them, or, a skull fracture. I don't know if Americans are really ready, willing, and able to throw themselves at that. I can't see myself as part of that group because I already know the outcome. So,
with our economy and involvement in several wars, where do you see America going?
Where do I see our economy and our involvement in those wars going?
Where do you see America going?
Our economy, I can tell you exactly where the economy is going. It's going to China, Honduras, Guatemala, Cambodia, Vietnam, Saipan, and then the other place where you can pay people peanuts and have them work like dogs. And so all the jobs have gone away to satisfy the stockholders. So that's where the economy has gone. These major multinational corporations do not see their futures in America. That's really not up for debate. They've proved it by taking their businesses elsewhere. So that's where the economy's going. It went somewhere, just not to America. And the money made, that went to the Cayman Islands and Switzerland. Not back here. Never to be taxed. Where's America going? America's going down a very rough road. That no matter who's in office, I think that will matter less and less. And I think Goldman Sachs and the Pentagon
Oh, I agree with you.
Without money, you're not paying your mortgage. You're not paying your rent. And no money leads to no water. And then you're dead in 72 hours. And so when I see jobs consistently not coming back, and people arguing about tax cuts, it does not matter how much you cut taxes. You can cut taxes all day long to the, quote, job creators, the businesses. If there's nobody to buy the pizza guy is not going to hire more employees. It doesn't matter how much you cut his taxes. People don't have the money to buy pizza. So what I'm saying is America has a job deficit because hundreds of thousands of jobs went elsewhere, not because Obama raised your taxes. He, in fact, lowered them. They are lower. And so I don't know how much more one can do. So when your insurance is coming from a company that's profit-based, your health care is going to be coming from a profit margin consideration. So here's what happens to America. The rich survive, and everyone else gets ready to work 2.5 to 3.5 jobs. And what do you get? Labor. Welcome to your science fiction, 21st century. I think that's where it goes. The rich stay rich, get richer. Everyone else, the middle class, kind of starts dropping lower and lower.
You speak of paying an emotional and intellectual cost in all of your projects. What have you gained from this? Do you feel that you have learned anything spiritually?
Spiritually? Is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
Oh, no, I don't do that. I don't have any spiritual anything. Like, you shoot a guy with a gun, he dies. You step on a bug dies. There's no heaven for me, no hell, and certainly not any karma. So, you do what you do while you can, and then you die. So, and capitalism does what it does, and money doesn't belong to anybody. It just stays in someone's wallet for a while, and then it goes somewhere else. But it always goes somewhere, and it's always about to go somewhere. So, I just kind of take those very glaringly obvious truths and go from there. So, a firm belief in capitalism, I believe it's there. I don't always like the rough elbows of it, but I believe it's there. So, I live my life through the prism of capitalism, physiological limits, and eventualities. And in all of that, there's no spirituality required. No God and karma is needed for these, for the numbers. I live my life by the numbers.
Right.
So not only am I an American, I'm an Americanist.
In your book, you speak about there are a few universal truths. What are the universal truths to you?
Well, the infirmities of humans, in that, like I said, without water after a few days you're dead. Below a certain degree of temperature, if you're not protected, you die. It doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank. Mother Nature will kill you. The cobra bite will kill you. The crocodile will kill you. And so all of those eventualities, again, those truths, that's those human truths. And all of those things that the Bible warns you against being: jealous, covetous, murderous, selfish, etc. That's kind of how humans are. I'm not putting it down. I have at times been all of those things. Never killed anybody. Definitely
Right.
thought about it. But that's how we are. And that's what happens when you put people together, put them into societies, and develop cultures, and have laws, and the idea of justice. Forget all of that. And from all of those things, you derive your human truth. Beyond the big ones like birth and death. The rest, jealousy and all of that. Like, I want what that guy's got. How did he get it? Well, that's a whole other discussion. But I want it. And that's comes in, and that's where I kind of lose interest.
Right. Occupants is a journal of your travels and moments that you captured on film. Are there any moments that you didn't capture that stick out in your mind?
Well, there's things that happen so quickly, you know, a better cameraman can capture them. But, you know, if the light's not right and you hoist up your camera, by the time you've dialed in your settings, that moment is like 8 exits down the highway. So yeah, I mean, there's eye blink moments like, oh, I wish, but you know, those are too many to catalog. Right. No, nothing really sticks out. But when you start thinking, as far as what's a good photo, unfortunately, everything starts looking like a good photo. Everything I look at, I look at something and I think of how I would shoot that, right down to light setting and f-stop.
What was the most interesting place that you visited outside the United States?
The countries in that book, the most interesting place by far was Afghanistan, just because it's a place where I just can't see myself living. And the hardness of the people and the history of the country is just so completely intense. I've been there a couple of times. It just commanded my awe very much. And so that was the place. If I could go back there and not really be convinced that I could get killed, and I am truly convinced that I could die there, I would go back there. But I wouldn't want to roll the dice on Kabul by myself. So I really think getting killed is definitely a possibility there, a very good possibility. And I'm not a thrill seeker. I'm not looking to get kidnapped. I'm not looking to get, shot at. I've been shot at. I didn't like it. And so, if I could go to Kabul and not die, I would go back to Afghanistan as soon as I could. And that was the most, interesting place I've been to.
You've worked with a lot of U.S. troops. How is the morale of them?
Well, the people I met in the 7 USO tours that I've done, the morale was great. I've met highly motivated people who are incredibly good at their jobs, extremely skilled, and had nothing but, amazing amounts of respect for these people, and kind of awed by their job, what their job requires. Like, you go on a patrol that day outside of your base in Baghdad. That's, you might not come home from that. And these people do it every day. I mean, I can't honestly get my head around that. I mean, I don't know how I would handle that. Or let's put it this way, I don't know if I could handle that. I really don't. And I can't just blindly say, well, if I had to, I would. If I had to, I don't know if I could. And so, knowing that, while I disagree with our presence in Iraq and Afghanistan, I have nothing but respect and admiration for the men and women deployed in these places.
Right. What is the significance of Africa Moni, who the book is dedicated to?
Oh, Africa? The guy?
Yes.
He's the guy at the front of the book. He's just a really bright light. He's an amazing guy who is really looking out for all the people in that township. And inside that township, you've got a lot of HIV-positive people, a lot of people who are very at risk. And Africa is this just relentlessly optimistic, ridiculously charismatic guy. And I made him a promise years ago. I said, every time I come to South Africa, I'm going to come and visit you and make a donation to this township. And he said, okay. And so far, 2 trips for 2, I've done that. And the last time I was there, I took that photo of him, and the whole book is dedicated to him. He doesn't know that yet. I'll be seeing him in May of next year. And I'm going to present him with a copy of the book, as well as that couple of times. He was HIV positive, living there. And it was Africa Money who told him to go get ARV treatment. But without Africa demanding that he go get treatment, Kenny would be dead by now. So they're an interesting pair of people. An inspiring person and one thus inspired.
Is there anywhere in the world that you would like to travel to that you haven't yet?
Any place in the world I'd like to travel to? Yeah. There's more of the stands I'd like to get to. As in Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, which isn't really a stand, but I've only been to Azerbaijan briefly, to Baku. But I'd like to spend more time there. So I'd like to get out to basically the region around the Caspian Sea. I'd like to go there. I'd like to get to Darfur. I'd like to get to Khartoum in northern Sudan. I'd like to get to Zimbabwe. I'd like to go back to North Korea if I could. I'd like to go to Yemen. I'd like to get to Kashmir. And most of those destinations I will get to.
What was your impression of North Korea?
It was intense. It was a week of propaganda. You spend 7 or 8 hours a day being told how great Kim Il-sung was, and how he invented math and agriculture and the solar system, and how happy and prosperous everyone in North Korea is, and how much they love life. And what are you going to do? Argue? And so you just go, okay, because there's really no discussion to have, in that these people can't be swayed, and if they did, it would be seen as being a traitor. So you just kind of go for the ride and go, okay, this is trippy. Can you do it? Well, I did.
And Henry, are you working on anything else currently?
Yeah, like 4 different books, an upcoming tour, getting things together for that, which will be about 14 months. So yeah, those things keep me busy. I have a weekly radio show, a weekly newspaper column. So I've got deadlines and an editor I answer to. And, these book projects, which, take agonizingly long amounts of, dedication, or large amounts of dedication and time to complete. So I am basically working 7 days a week. When I'm not eating, sleeping, or working out, I am working on one of these projects which I am just damn determined to finish.
And my last question is, how do you want to be remembered?
None of that really matters to me. Once I'm gone, it's, not up to me. All I can do is do stuff while I'm alive. And hopefully that track record will speak for itself. So if the truth is told, how I'd be remembered is, someone who cared, someone who worked really hard, and who, didn't sit around. And that's, so if I could be remembered in a way, that would be it. Whether I will be remembered at all, I don't really get to, unless I shoot someone famous. It's not really anything I have much control over.
Right. Well, that's about it. And once again, I appreciate the interview, Henry.
Not a problem, man. Thanks for taking the time, and I'll see you down the road.